Howdy folks, and welcome back to War Thunder with the mighty Jingles. Before we get started, I have mentioned this in another video, but I think I probably need to keep mentioning it every now and then, because the message doesn't seem to be getting through. I get a lot of PMs from subscribers who, just want to say hello or ask a quick question or whatever. Unfortunately, while it might just be a quick question for you, at my end, it looks like that, and there's nothing quick about it, and it's nothing personal. I don't answer PMs or messages or anything like that in the game because I just don't have time. There's too many of you. I mean, there you go. Hey Jingles, quick question. Is the Beaufighter a good plane? Well, by the time I've answered that one, and 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 that one, 15 minutes have gone by and another 6 have popped up, and I just can't keep up with it. So I as a rule, I just don't respond to PMs when I'm in the game because, I'm here to play. If I wanted to chat, I would be on Windows Messenger. I'm not on Windows Messenger, so I'm not here to chat. Nothing personal, but just a quick heads up, in case you do send me a PM in the game and you're wondering why I'm never replying. Basically, that's why. But anyway, all that aside, the point of today's video is to take a look at two of probably the most requested aircraft that I get asked to take a look at are the F4 Corsair and the P-47 Thunderbolt. So, there it is, the F4 Corsair. That's the F4U 1A at rank 7, the F4U 1D at rank 8. They look pretty much identical. And then the P-47D Thunderbolt at rank 9. A little bit shot up there in my hangar. But I'm leaving it like that on purpose, and you'll see why when I come to look at the P-47D. So back to the F4U 1A, the rank 7 aircraft. There are actually 3 F4Us in the game. One of them you don't get until rank 12, and it's definitely better than the other two, purely and simply because it turns a little faster, but it's still garbage. But it gets 4 20mm cannons. It has a lot of firepower. That's good stuff. But for the purposes of this little video, I don't have it, so we're going to be looking at the rank 7 and rank 8 versions of the Corsairs. Now, I've always been a big fan of the Corsair. I think it's a sexy looking aircraft. That gull wing configuration it just gives it a real rugged, good looking charm. And there's something about the radial engined aircraft that they just look like they mean business. And that applies to the Corsair, sorry, to the Thunderbolt as well, the Jug. They just look vicious. So, stat-wise, F4U, what's it got going for it? Well, it does have good firepower. 12.7mm Browning machine guns, the old 50 cals, 6 of them, 3 in each wing. That's good stuff. The rank 8 has exactly the same armament, so, it's not bad. But the rank 8 one can carry bombs by default as well. So that just gives it a bit more flexibility. Now, the turning circle of these aircraft is absolutely garbage. These things are like American muscle cars. Right? They're great in a straight line, but don't ask them to turn a corner. 35.7 second turning time on the rank 7, and is even worse, 38.8 seconds on the rank 8. Don't ever get into a turning fight when you're flying one of these things. Never try to dogfight a Spitfire or a Zero, because they will hand you your arse on a silver plate. That's not what these things are for. The way you're supposed to play these things is as an energy fighter, boom and zoom. You pick your target with care, you calculate your approach angle, you make sure you've got an escape vector, you get the altitude advantage or the speed advantage, or preferably both. You die on him, you open fire, you let rip, and if you don't shoot him down in your first pass, you just keep going. You use all that speed you built up in the dive, you give the throttle some welly, you power clear so that he can't turn around and catch up with you, and then you set up to do it all again. Well, that's the theory. Unfortunately, in arcade battles, it rarely works out like that, and that's the problem with the F4U, the Corsair, because in arcade battles, it's pretty good at the boom part, the whole diving in on the target and letting rip with those machine guns, but it's not very good at the zoom part, the getting away. And that's because everybody in arcade battles has such generous flight dynamics, unrealistically generous, that the power advantage of these aircraft just isn't there. As an example, if you were trying to boom and zoom on a Mark V Spitfire, for example, and if you didn't kill him in your dive, as you're trying to zoom away, he just turns around inside you, lines up his 20mm cannons, hits his military throttle, and shoots your ass down. And he will keep up with you easily for long enough to be able to shoot you down before you can get out of gun range. This thing just isn't fast enough. 571 kilometers per hour. It's fast-ish, but in arcade, it's not fast enough. It's not so bad with the F4U at rank 8, because that can at least do 630 kilometers per hour. But again, it's still not quite fast enough. And the climb performance of these things isn't great. 15 meters per second here, 12 meters per second there. So trying to out-climb the enemy is usually going to end up with you just bleeding off too much speed and them sitting on your ass and peppering with cannon fire. Trying to run away after you've done your pass. I mean, it sounds great in paper, but don't forget, boom and zoom isn't all just about diving on the target, pulling the trigger, and then zooming away from him. You have to make sure that when you're zooming away from him, you're not zooming into more enemy fighters, because they'll just hand you your ass on the way up as well. So you spend a lot of time, and this isn't so much a problem with the Corsairs as with all aircraft that prefer boom and zoom, particularly in arcade battles, not so much in historical battles or full real battles, where the advantages of this, the power advantage of this kind of aircraft really does shine. But in arcade battles, you have to spend so much time planning your attack. Meanwhile, the guys in the Spitfires are on their third and fourth kill. Just, dogfighting down on the ground with everybody else. And you're, 1,000 feet up, looking for the target that you can actually dive on, shoot at, and get away without flying into a whole bunch of enemy fighters. So you spend more time. It's kind of like a minute of preparation, 10 seconds of shooting, and then another 2 minutes, if you manage to get away, of angling and putting yourself in a position where you can dive down and get another 10 seconds of shooting in. Meanwhile, the guys in the Spitfires and the Zeros are all on 7 or 8 kills, and you've shot one aircraft down and spent more time positioning yourself for your next attack than doing any actual fighting. And so you end up trying to dogfight in these things because you just get so frustrated and so bored, and then you get your arse shot down because these are not dogfighters. It's really frustrating because the generosity of the flight model in arcade all seems to be in giving everybody pretty good speed and climb that kind of matches these things, but it doesn't extend the other way in giving these things good turning performance. So the advantage in arcade, for me anyway, your experience may differ, seems to be with the pure dogfighters, especially stuff like Spitfires and Zeros, which are very agile and pretty quick as well. So that's a problem, but it's only a problem in arcade. Now when you get yourself into historical battles, particularly, well, obviously the American historical battles, Battle of the Bulge, Korea, that sort of thing, you do see a lot of Corsairs. And I think there's a very good reason for that, because the proper flight dynamics of these things, where you can actually use zoom and boom correctly, these things become very good aircraft because they are very well armed, and they are pretty quick. I mean, you can get up to 700 kilometers per hour in a dive on these things. They only start bleeding the speed off when you come out of the dive on the other end and try to maneuver. Don't do that. Keep this thing in a straight line. Stay low if you have to break contact and get away from the guy that you failed to kill. If you do kill him in one pass, then immediately put it into a climb and use that speed to regain some altitude and set up for your next target. And certainly in historical battles, I do think these things are pretty good. This thing certainly is good. Come on, load up. There we go. it's certainly good in historical battles. I've flown this thing in historical battles, and the reason you never see me flying this thing is another one of the reasons why I'm not a massive fan of the Thunderbolt. I mean, we've talked about the Corsair. The Thunderbolt is a massive disappointment. And it's a disappointment for the same reason that the Corsair is, because it's an energy fighter. It's a boom and zoom fighter, and in arcade, boom and zoom, just all the advantages are with the dogfighters, and very few of the advantages are with these things. Now, I've left this thing damaged in the hangar on purpose, because this is one of the other things that I really hate about the Jug, which is, it's so disappointing, because this was a legendary aircraft in real life. It's just not very good in arcade battles. It's not bad in historical battles, and it's probably going to be really, really good in full real battles, but I don't have the courage to fly one of those yet. But here's the thing. These things are too expensive to fly. I'm sitting here on 101,000 credits at the moment, which isn't a massive amount, and I'm going to need to start farming some more money, because if you look at my pilot profile, no you don't, wrong one, there we go, Brits, where is it, there we go, I'm almost at rank 13 for the British, and then I'm going to need to start buying new aircraft, so I need to start farming some money, and that means I cannot afford to keep flying the P-47D, because it costs an absurd amount of money to repair. Now, it's a rank 9 aircraft, and if we mouse over it, we will see average repair cost is almost 10,000 credits, and the time to repair for free is 3 days and 14 hours. What the hell's going on? Have a look at my crew skills. Bear in mind those numbers are with 100 out of 50 repair speed and 100 out of 100 healing speed. By way of comparison, there's the P-38G, that's a rank 10 aircraft. That only takes me 5 hours to repair for free, and only costs me 2,800 credits. This thing almost costs 4 times as much. And it's a rank lower. And as far as the time's concerned, I mean, I can't even calculate. That's what? 4 hours, 51 minutes? It takes like 8 times as long to repair. So I haven't actually been flying the Thunderbolt very much, because I'll take it up, I'll get it shot down, and then I can't fly it again for 3 days. Because it just costs too much to repair. I mean, I'll repair this one here because it's not fully damaged. But this is the 3rd time I've repaired this thing today in order to present you with this video. And it's cost me 15,000 credits. It's just cost me nearly 18,000 credits now just to, just to get this thing in a presentable state. Played 2 games, had them shot down in both, didn't do very well in either. And the repair costs are crippling me. You cannot afford to keep flying this plane unless you run it a premium account. And it's not even a premium aircraft. So I really don't understand what's going on there. I mean, here's another rank 9 aircraft, and that one only costs, well, it takes 17 hours to repair, and will cost me just under 5,000 credits. But they're both the same rank. Why the difference? Ground service? The same. In fact, not even as good. This thing, 100 repair speed. I'm an ace crew in that. P63A is only 50. It's just a basic repair, basic crew. 50 repair speed, and it only takes 17 hours. It takes a less than third of the time to repair than that does with half the repair speed. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I've blabbed on enough about these things. Let's show you some games, and I'll actually show you what I'm talking about. Put my mouth where my money is. Or is it the other way around? Put my money where my mouth is. Oh, I don't know. Here we go. Let's get the games underway. So, F4u Corsair. Now, you're going to see me doing something that I've just spent a good 10 minutes explaining to you that you should never, ever, ever do. Well, I'm going to get into an attempt to get into a turning fight. But it is a Ju-87 Stuka, and they're even less manoeuvrable than you are, so there are circumstances where it is sometimes okay to do what it's never okay to do. As it turns out, it was the wrong decision anyway, because he gets nailed by a wingman. So, I'm doing around 400 knots. No, I'm not. I'm doing around 400 kilometers per hour. I wish I was doing 400 knots. Unfortunately, I'm kind of slow, and I'm kind of low. So going after that Stuka put me into a bad energy position. Now, I can see that A20G is heading this way, and I don't want to put myself in front of him because A20Gs have noses made out of machine guns. So instead I'm going to come in from the side and try to slot in as on his tail as he makes a bombing run on this destroyer or light cruiser or whatever it is. And there he is. Now he's climbing, so he's bleeding off all of that speed he picked up in the dive. Which means I should be able to stay at optimal firing range. But this guy takes some killing. I mean, I'm not having any problems hitting him. When you hear that noise, it means one of your guns has just overheated and jammed. And that gun will stay jammed until you reload your guns. Little tip there for you. If you want to reload your guns in flight, press Y. And there you go. Now I'm following this guy down and I'm picking up a lot of speed in this dive. And this is the kind of the problem I'm talking about here in arcade battles. Come on, die, scumbag. Right, he's down. Now, use that speed, get away. If it had just been me and that A20, I would have immediately gone into a climb, regained some altitude, but there's a swarm of enemy fighters, and I think there's a Brewster Buffalo. Now, a Brewster Buffalo I can outrun, but he's shooting at me. Look at how long I'm actually in the danger zone here, with this guy shooting at my ass. And eventually he gives up. Right, and that's a rank 1 or 2 aircraft who was able to stay on me for a good 10-15 seconds and put some shots into me. This thing's fast, but it just ain't quite fast enough. Now there's an Aerocobra coming after me as well, and he's even faster. He can keep up with me, no problem. So like it or not, I'm going to have to turn and fight him, and I start dogfighting, and that's just not what this thing's good for. Now bear in mind, in all this time, I've achieved exactly 1 kill. Meanwhile, the Spitfires and the Zeros are on their 3rd and 4th kill, and they're not having to go through any of this shit in order to actually shoot aircraft down. And unfortunately, this thing does not turn fast enough to be able to get out. So, let's have another go. Ground strike mission this time, Pearl Harbor. Taking the rank 7 up again. And it's important to know that all the way through these games, I'm having to take so much more. Well, you know, there may be people out there for whom the tactical aspect of flying one of these aircraft properly is the whole point. And, you know, that's absolutely fine. You definitely do have to pay more care and attention to what you're doing and how you're doing it, and not just what you're planning on doing and how you're planning on doing it, but how you're planning to get out afterwards, than you do in a Spitfire or a Zero, for example. Because you can dive into a dogfight in one of those things and just turn and burn. And it works, because that's what they're good for. You can't do that and survive in one of these things. You have to have an exit strategy in the forefront of your mind at all times. And that's absolutely fine and dandy, if that's the sort of thing you like doing. But you are rarely going... You know, you take 2 pilots of equal competence, you put one in a Mark 5B Spitfire and one in one of these, and the guy in the Spitfire is probably going to get the most kills in an arcade battle. I can't stress that enough. Everything I'm talking about here purely relates to arcade battles. In historical battles, and almost certainly in full real battles as well, the shoe is most definitely on the other foot. These things are... Well, I haven't flown one of these in a historical battle. I've flown the P-47D. But whenever it's an American historical battle... Oh, that was lucky. Killed the pilot. Okay, good start. Whenever it's an American historical battle, you do tend to see a lot of Thunderbolts and Corsairs. And I think where proper energy management pays off is not in arcade. it's in historical battles and full real battles. And so these aircraft, I mean, I hesitate to write them off as just garbage, but because they're not. But it takes a special breed of pilot to make these things sit up and beg in arcade battle. You have to be a lot more patient, and this is going to sound overly critical, and it's not intended as such, but you have to be a lot more patient than the average gamer to be able to enjoy and do your best with one of these aircraft in arcade battles in War Thunder. If you're prepared to put the time and the patience in, however, these things can be fun. Okay, he was diving on me. He's picked up a lot of speed in the dive. He's probably going to be able to come around and get on my tail, because I am climbing after this Ilyushin 4. But it's going to take him time to do it. Now, can I get away with it? Good. The Ilyushin's diving, and I'm taking some fire from behind. See what I mean? It's fast, but it ain't fast enough. Come on, come on. Now I need to power on through when I come out of this. There we go, overshot him. Pick your exit vector and get the hell out of there. Rather than going straight on ahead, that would have taken me right into a whole bunch of enemy fighters. And here he comes. It's a Yak 3. And he's gonna catch me. Yeah, I've got to turn around and try to shake him. And the best way to do that is to lead him into friendly fighters. But I'm never going to be able to dogfight a Yak 3 to death. Not flying one of these things. There, you see he's on my tail already. Shots are coming in. Didn't take him long. And he's going to catch me. He will catch me. Come on, friendlies. Get this guy off me. Use that speed. Go into a climb. Try to make the guy on your tail a target. And you've got to keep an eye on your airspeed. Just try to maximise the energy that you have. You don't want to still be climbing when you're down to less than 200 kilometers per hour. You're too slow, and it will take you too long to build up more speed on the way around. Oh, that was unfortunate. Yeah, I got him, but this thing is not agile. You don't want to be getting into head-on passes with this thing, because even if you kill him, the guy no longer has any control over his aircraft. You are not manoeuvrable enough to get out of the way of his wreck. So here's the rank 8. Now the rank 8 is faster than the rank 7. This thing will do 630 kilometers per hour, more than that in a dive. And it has the same armament, except you can see two 1,000-pound bombs there underneath the fuselage, which I completely failed to hit anything with, I think. Actually, maybe not. We'll see. This is not an ideal approach. Ideally, I would have been higher up than this, but this is how close I started. And I'm not trying to follow that guy around, because that would be bloody silly. I picked up all that speed in that shallow dive. Use it. Now, the reason I'm turning in here is because I don't want to keep flying right into that swarm of enemy fighters. This is what I'm talking about. My whole approach vector wasn't ideal here. Ideally, I should have gone high, circled, gained some altitude, moved out to the left or right flank of the battlefield, and then dived on someone from the side where my exit vector isn't going to take me straight into a pile of enemy aircraft. But how long is that going to take? Meanwhile, and this is a common thread you're going to hear throughout this video, the Spitfires and the Zeros are on their 4th and 5th kill. So it's not really so much a problem with the Corsair as with the energy fighters, but it's much more extreme with the Corsair because it's so much more of an energy fighter than most of the other aircraft in the game. I mean, people say the BF-109s are are energy, or some of the marks of BF-109s are energy fighters, and they are. But they can also dogfight in arcade. It's not what they're ideal for, but they can do it. You can't dogfight at all, ever, in a Corsair. Not in an arcade. Not in an arcade battle. The flight modelling is just not generous enough. And there we go. That's me screwed. And yeah, I know I'm doing it wrong. But doing it right is so boring. It's 3 minutes of flying and manoeuvring and positioning, and then 10 seconds of firing, and then another 3 minutes of running away and manoeuvring and positioning. I just have more... I think it's fair to say I'm more of a dogfighter than an energy fighter. I just have more fun in Spitfires and Zeros. So here's the Jug. Ridiculously well-armed aircraft. 850 caliber machine guns, a whole rack of bombs, loads of rockets. Let's see what we can do. And you play it the same way as the Corsairs, because it's also an energy fighter. But it's a better energy fighter. It's faster. It's more heavily armed. If you have to turn, it's not very good at it, but it's better at it than the Corsair. And I needed to kill this guy. He is the best player on the enemy team. Unfortunately, I screwed it up. But, you know, if it doesn't work, you keep going, you power out. That's what you're supposed to do. And look, he's on my tail already. It just... oh, forget it. But I'll say this much about the Jug. It is very, very durable. It can take a lot of damage. And this guy's been putting shots into me for the last 30 seconds. There's one of the Yaks. Yak 7, I think, something like that. And despite the fact that he can quite easily sit on my ass, he's just not good enough to shoot you down. And of course, as so often happens in War Thunder, when you've got somebody on your ass who is who you can't shake, but who doesn't have the skill to take you out the proper way, they'll take you out the old... So, there's that. Now, it's probably safe to say that energy fighters like, particularly the Corsair, and to a lesser degree, the P-47D, are just not really my thing. I'm more of a dogfighter kind of pilot. You know, and that's fine. And I'm not saying that the Corsair and the Jug are bad aircraft, because they're not. But it does definitely require a different kind of player. Probably a lot more patient than the average gamer to get the most out of these aircraft. However, one area, as I mentioned earlier on in the video, where these things really, really do seem to shine is with a more realistic flight model, and you find that in historical battles. So here we go. This is Korea. It's the Americans versus the Russians. And I'm flying the Jug. Actually, this is the first time I ever took this thing up in a historical battle. And you know what? When you do get proper flight models, the energy fighters do seem to be really, really, really good. And straight away you can see, look at how long it's taken me to get this thing airborne. This is some proper flight modelling going on, because this thing is so bloody heavy and it's got such a massive bomb load. And time again, when you're doing historical battles, anytime the Americans are involved, I guarantee you'll probably see more Corsairs than anything else on the American team. And there's got to be a good reason for that. And I genuinely believe that this is the area in which the Corsair and the Thunderbolt really, really, really shines. Because unlike in arcade battles, and here's a little cockpit view of the jug there for you. A lot of people keep asking, and I keep forgetting to do it. What do the cockpit views look like? Well, there you go. The cockpit of the jug. Unlike in arcade battles, where a lot of the aircraft behave more like UFOs than their historical counterparts ever did, things are modelled much more seriously in historical battles, and definitely in full real battles, which I just haven't been brave enough to try yet. You can boom and zoom with these things, and actually be able to enjoy your speed advantage and your power advantage, because the generosity of the flight model for everything that isn't an energy fighter isn't there the way it is in arcade. And oh look, there's a flight of Corsairs behind me. Well, fancy that. So the objective of this historical battle, Korea, there's a ground battle going on. There are a bunch of bridges which must be either destroyed or held, depending on which side you are. And there, look at that. Look at all the Corsairs. It's got to be a good reason for that, guys, trust me. Yeah, so basically you have to assist your ground forces and defend against the enemy ground forces, and you can do that by knocking out bridges or defending your bridges and stopping the tanks from getting across, and so on and so forth. But as always tends to be the case, it's generally the side that runs out of aircraft first that loses. The ground battle that's going on is just a backdrop for the air fights, and something for the ground attack aircraft to rack up points on. So we're going to skip ahead to a little bit of the action, so you don't have to sit there watching me fly to... And there we go, there's first contact. Now, just up ahead there, about 5-6 kilometres away, there's a bridge, and I decided I'm going to drop my 1,000-pound bombs on that sucker, stop the enemy tank column from getting across. You really do have to have your eyes on a swivel when you're flying historical battles. Keep checking around all around, because don't forget, the keen eyes pilot skill only affects which direction you're looking in. So if you're sitting here looking ahead all the time, there could be an enemy aircraft 90 degrees off on your right flank, and you don't know he's there unless you actually turn your head and look in that direction. For those of you who still don't know how to do it, hold down C, move your mouse around to pan your view, and that's how you spot enemy aircraft coming. Of course, you can always see the enemy aircraft that the rest of your team have detected. And that's the bridge I'm going to go for, but check out that A-20G over there on ahead and on the right. He's got the same idea, and that sucker takes my kills. Seriously, I'm joking, I don't mind. There you go, that was a good bomb and run. Took out all 3 sections of the bridge in one go. So well done to him. But crap, now what am I going to do? Okay, we seem to be clear over this side. Let's build up some speed and go for these heavy tanks. Nice shallow dive. Fire all the rockets. Totally missed because I suck. Bombs away. And power on out of there. Looking at my radar, having a look behind me. Yep, there's a lag 3 coming in. He's gone into a shallow dive. I'm giving the throttle all I've got. It's not just the lag 3, there's somebody else behind me. There's flak coming up. Let's get out of here. Yep, I've definitely picked up a tail. Is he closing in? I think he is. We'll see if he can outclimb me. Actually, no, let's not. Best chance of survival here. Loop over. Turn all that altitude into speed. And lead them back into enemy fighters. Try to trade on the fact that he doesn't get the target lead indicator that you get in arcade battles, so he has to... this guy's not bad. He has to actually know where his shots are going to go. And he's not going to be as accurate as an arcade pilot would be. And he's getting a couple of hits, but the jug can take it. Unless he gets a lucky crit, I can keep this up. See, I couldn't get away from him. So I just need to evade. And yoo-hoo, guys, target here. And in the meantime, this guy looks like his engine's died and he's been forced down. Well, let's not let him get away with it. There you go. Use that speed. Lead him into friendly fighters. Come on, guys, get this guy off me. I'm never going to evade him. I don't have the energy to get away from him. But I can make him an easier target for the guys with me. If they'll just get him off my ass. Here they come. They're going to get him. Come on, fellas. Sooner rather than later. Now he's got problems. And unfortunately he's fixated on me, despite the fact that there's a Corsair on his ass. And he's just run out of friends. There you go. No, no, he's still there. There goes the Corsair. Or is it a Kitty Hawk? Hard to tell from this angle. Anyway, he's down. And I'm clear. Oh shit, a MiG. Well, at least it's not a MiG-15, but it's still not great news. And he is heading this way, but he's not coming straight at me. But, you know, why would you go head-on against a Thunderbolt if you're driving a MiG? I've got 8 50 caliber machine guns. It's not playing to your advantages. And he doesn't do it, so I can't really blame him. I mean, yeah, he'll probably put me down, but I might put him down. And you'll find jet jockeys, good jet jockeys anyway, will always try to not put themselves in a situation where you can return fire. They like jumping on unaware targets, and you know, it's the whole point. You see people complaining, oh, it's not a fair fight. Well, it's not supposed to be a fair fight. It's your job to make the fight as unfair as possible for the other team. Now my engine's taken damage, and I should not be doing this in a historical battle. I'm giving it extra throttle, and there's a very, very good chance. 1, I'm going to stall, and 2, I'm going to burn my engine out and end up with a dead engine. So I need to find an airbase to land and repair and get some bombs back up. And it's worth pointing out that I am just not a very good historical battle pilot. I'm still learning the ropes of this. I mean, I try to play one every day, and I am getting better at it. And I'm enjoying it, but I'm still not any good. I'm checking the map, because I thought I saw another airbase much, much closer to the action than the one that we took off from. And yep, there it is. So I'll head over there, I'll land, and I don't need to. Hostile team has lost all its aircraft. And I'll do a quick victory barrel roll and almost put myself into a flat spin. And almost fail horribly. That's what you get for showing off. So, where does that leave the Jug and the Corsairs? Well, they're not looking too good in arcade battles, in my opinion. Your experience may differ. If it does, you're a damn sight better an energy pilot than I am. Although that would be pretty easy to believe, because I'm not a very good energy pilot. I'm definitely more of a dogfighter. But you cannot deny that in arcade battles, it's easier to do well with a dogfighter than it is with an energy fighter. Not too long ago, I put a video up, flying with Krebs, where I dived into a pack of 6 enemy fighters in one of my Spitfires, and killed them all. You can do that in a Spitfire in arcade battles, if you're any good, and if the enemy fighter pilots are bad enough, you're never going to be able to do that in a P-47 or an F4U. They're just not built that way. It's not what they're for. And the power and energy advantage that they have, or that they should have, they just don't have in arcade flight model. If you want to fly these things and do well in them, I recommend you stick to historical battles. There's a bloody good reason why any time you fly an American historical battle, half the team consists of Corsairs, because they're well armed and they're powerful and durable aircraft. But in arcade, not so much. Well, hope you enjoyed the video anyway. As always, watch your six, and I'll catch you next time.